Hi there, welcome to the channel. Today I've got a lovely project to share with you. I'll be showing you exactly how to draw this adorable Jack Russell Terrier from start to finish. I'll guide you through every line and every shape, nice and slow, so that you can draw along with me. So grab your pencils, get comfy, and let's get started. Okay, so we've got the eyes and we've got the ears and we've got the forehead pretty much in place now. So for me, the next sort of logical place is to come down onto the nose and work on the nose, work on the lips around here. And then I'll be able to sort of work back out from the nose, back up towards the eyes, putting in the bits of texture and the light fur that I can see as we go up the nose. So it makes more sense for me to come down here and get these darker bits in and then work backwards than it does for me to come down this way. That's just my preference. There's no right or wrong as to how we work around the dog so that we can finish the portrait. It's just that's what works for me. So I've got a nice sharp Payne's grey pencil from the Polychromos, and the first thing that I want to do before I start to sort of dab out any of the pencil lines, I will take some of the pencil lines out, but the first thing I want to do is to just get the really dark bits plotted in. And obviously some of the really dark bits on this nose are going to be these nostrils. So I'm going to just work around the nostrils, just using little dashes, getting the really dark bit of the nostril in. I'm using the Payne's grey because I can definitely see more blues coming through in this nose, and I'm just looking for the areas, just like we've plotted in the other areas, just like we've plotted in the ears. I'm just looking for areas that are just a bit darker and just working out these shapes. So as I'm going around with the Payne's grey, I'm looking at the reference photograph and just sort of getting a little bit more familiar with the things that I can see on the reference photograph, and that just sort of helps me spot things. It helps me think about what colours I might use, just having a look around it, around this reference photograph whilst I'm working at just plotting little bits in here and there. I don't need to get everything in at the minute. I don't need to, get it all absolutely right. I'm just sort of working around the space to just have a think about what I need to put where. So I'm just looking for little bits that would be just a little bit darker, so I can see that we've got the darker bit that's coming around there, and then we've actually got another little line that comes around here. So I'm just looking for these dark lines, getting these in place right from the outset, but with a really light pressure so that I can adjust them or dab them or move them around. That just comes down there, and we've got a little bit that sort of comes over there. So that's pretty much all I need to do. I've just gone around looking for the darker lines, just getting those darker bits in. Obviously we've got the dark nostrils around here. I don't want to make it too dark, but I can put a little bit of pigment in there just to remind me that that's going to go really quite dark. So once I've got those plotted in, I'm going to get my cold grey 1 pencil and I'm going to get some base layer into this nose. But before I do that, I just want to get the kneadable eraser and just very gently dab out a few of these pencil lines. I don't want to take them all back completely, but I just want to dab those out just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is take this cold grey 1 pencil and just have a think about getting some base layer. Now this line here that's on the line drawing is actually the top of the really dark bit that's on the nose, but obviously the nose carries on past over the top of that line, so I'm going to carry the nose, or carry the base layer over the top of that line. I'm going to just dab, there's a bit of a pencil line there, so I'll just dab that out and then get some base layer actually into the nose as well. I'm just going to use circular strokes. Again, it doesn't really matter what pencil strokes I use for the base layer, as long as I've got a nice even coverage. That's the important thing, the even coverage. So I just want to get a base over this nose. I'm using circular strokes in the middle of the nose, but as I get to the outside edge of the nose, you can see that I'm using those sort of colouring strokes because this is going to sort of transition into the fur. So that's why I'm doing that. Just a bit of a graphite line around there. Let's just take that off. Just going to transition out into that fur. There we go. Okay, so I've got a little bit of base layer in there. I'm going to work light to dark, just like I've done with the rest of the areas. So I'm looking for the next darkness of colour that I can see in the nose, and I can see quite a bit of blue in this nose in places. So I'm going to use the light ultramarine, and I'm just going to start to get the structure of this nose in by just looking for the shapes that I can see with the blue. Now the first thing that I can see, this is that line that I said that we got, and underneath is the darker sort of area, and then over the top it's lighter. I'm going to bring a little bit of this light ultramarine around the top around here. Now I've got to make this a really, really light coverage. You can see it's just a dusting because I just want the tint of the blue to come through the grey when the nose is finished. I don't want it to be a really, really heavy blue colour. So I'm just going to bring a little bit, and I mean a really light glaze of the light ultramarine over the top of the nose there. I'm going to bring it around the edge of the nose around here. Underneath here as well. It doesn't matter if I end up putting the light ultramarine into areas that are going to go much darker. That doesn't matter at all. I can bring it down into this lovely shiny bit on the nose here. Got this lovely little shine there. I'm just working around the nose, just bringing a bit of this blue. It looks quite a lot, you know, it's quite a lot. It looks quite heavy at the minute, but it won't look as heavy once I've finished with it. So around this side as well, on the side of the nose. It's going in quite a few places, but I'm still putting it in sections again, just like we built up the ear in sections, just like we built this here in sections. I'm using the light ultramarine to just get those sections in. Thinking about what is going to go where. There we go. So I've got some of that light ultramarine in there. So I've got a little bit of the blue in there, and then I'm going to come in with the Cold Grey 3, and I'm going to bring a bit of the Cold Grey 3 over into this area that's going to go quite dark. I'm going to get this dark bit in first before I blend out the blue bit, and that's just simply so that I don't lose the line drawing that's there, and so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to get the Cold Grey 3. I'm just going to use circular strokes. That's going to actually help a bit with the texture of the dog's nose. I'm just going to work around this lovely dark triangle bit that's on the top of the nose. Work over that. This little bit here, we don't want to put too much pigment into, because obviously there's going to be a nice shine in there. So I'm going to leave that without any pigment in it. And I'm just going to work on getting this dark bit in on the top of the nose first. So there's my Cold Grey 3 in there. And then this is the Cold Grey 6. And I'm going to do pretty much the same again. I'm going to work around this. It's like a bit of a triangle, isn't it? Over the top and then around here. But again, I'm going to leave this little section here lighter, so because that's where the lovely shine's going to be. I'm going to just use circular strokes. I'm just going to get a nice even coverage of this dark pencil in here. So it's quite a sharp pencil. I don't want to press on hard. I don't want to see lots of pencil lines in there. I'm just going to bring the grey in. It comes around here and then follows around the side. It curves around the side of the nostrils, doesn't it? We've got this slightly darker bit just coming down there. And then onto this side. Now I want this to go really dark in here, or fairly dark in here, but I don't want to try and put it all in one go. I don't want to make it too dark in one go. I want to do it quite slowly. So work around the sides and the nose. I'm just going to curve the pencil strokes around this way. I'm going to work over the top of this curve on top, this arch, but then you can see I'm just leaving a bit more of the pigment around this side. It's not going to go anywhere near as dark. So just circular strokes. If I need it to go darker, I'll just go over it a few more times. Whilst I've got this this cold grey 6 in my hand, I'm going to also just bring a little bit into these nostrils and start darkening down these nostrils. So just work that around and under the curve. Just looking for some of the darker shapes. Bring that down this side as well. Curving that around. It's not overly focused again. The ears and the nose are not overly focused. The focus is really on the eyes. So I don't want to make it too focused. I'm going to build it up with shapes again. Just looking for some of the darker bits in here. Just starting to get in some of these shapes that I can see. So I'm starting to get some structure in there already. I'm just going to take the kneadable eraser, and right on the top of that nose there was a little pencil mark that I just wanted to take out. I'm just going to come back to the warm grey one, and I'm going to take the warm grey one base layer just up a little bit higher off the top of this nose, and I'm just using backward and forward strokes for that. Just so that I've got something to blend the top of this nose into. I always quite like to take the base layer further than the area that I'm working. So this is the area that I'm working on, so I'm taking the base layer further. And that means I can then blend the edge of the nose out into the rest of the face. So there we go. And then back to this cold grey 6, and I'm going to just very gently start to feather the top of this curve, just to start to encourage that nose to go up onto the top of the head. Don't need to put much in. I'm just getting that, the top of that nose, just starting to think about blending out. And whilst I've got this cold grey 6 in my hand, I'm also just going to look at other areas where I can see that I'm going to need a slightly darker pencil line, so, or colour pencil line. So I'm just going to bring a little bit around there and just make a little note of that lovely crease that comes down under the nose there. There we go. I'm going to come back to the cold grey one, and I'm going to blend this now. So I'm going to blend this all together. I'm going to go over the grey, the cold grey 6, bring it down and into the side of this nose. And I'm doing it to help to fill the grain in, but it's also just pushing that cold grey 6 around. It's just pushing the pencil, because I've put the pencil down really lightly. It's just pushing that pencil around, and it's just mixing the colours together. It's mixing the ultramarine, the blue, the grey, the darker grey and the very light grey. Just mixing those together and hopefully just preserving this lovely light bit on this side. I'm going to come in with the black and I'm going to start to darken bits down. So I'm going to work in this nostril to start with. Just using circular strokes. I want to make sure that I get it really sort of dark right at the top part of this nostril, because you can imagine that's going up and into the nose. Same on this side. Just using really, really small circular strokes to work along the edge of that nostril. Get that in. Curving around the bottom. I still want to keep this pencil light in terms of pressure when I put the pencil down. I don't want to press on hard with it. So that it gives me the opportunity to blend again, just like I've just done with the coal grey one. And then let's just work into this dark bit again, over the top of this lovely curve on the top of the nose. Just bringing that round. I'm going to get a much better result if I build the colour up quite slowly. So if I want something to go darker with this black pencil, I just go over the same space a few times rather than trying to press on really hard. Bring in dark round underneath. And then let's have a think about this bit. It's about there, isn't it? So I'm just going to work in circular strokes. I don't want to draw an oval. I just want to work around that space in little circles, but going around that oval. Just to keep that lovely shine on top of the nose there. We've also got this little bit at the background here. I'm just going to top that up and top that up. So I'm using the black, but I'm not pressing on really hard with it. I'm keeping the pencil really, really light. It's working around the side of this nose. This comes all the way over to the other side. But it's a little bit lighter just on the edge there. So I'm just leaving that for the minute. I can go back and can go in and top all of this up. Just working around underneath and darkening down right under that part of the nose there. Sometimes it's just a dot, that's all I can get in. Sometimes it's a little dot. Just shaping around the side of that nose. So I've got that dark bit in on top. There's also a little bit of darker pencil that just comes off the top of here. So I'm using little flick strokes and bringing the pencil off at the end to just very gently add darker bit of fur right on the top. And I say little flick strokes and bringing the pencil off, and then sometimes it's just little taps and little dots because we're not working on a very big space, so there's not necessarily a lot that I can get in there. So just little taps. I just want to grab the kneadable eraser, and I've got a couple of graphite lines right up on the top of the nose up here where we've got this this slightly darker fur that's going up the nose, and I'm going to come back in with my coal grey one and I'm going to get a little bit of pencil into this space. Now I've still got quite a bit of graphite showing there. I'm going to dab into it with the kneadable eraser, and if that doesn't work, if it doesn't take enough of the graphite back, I'll just move on to one of my other erasers, something like the Tombow Mono Zero, and I know that that will take it all out. But the kneadable eraser's taken enough of it off for me, and I just want to use little dashes with the pencil coming off at the end of the pencil stroke, and it's curving out towards the side of the face, and I want to get in some of this colour on top of the nose, and that's going to help me blend the top of this nose out. There's another little bit around here as well, and that sort of curves out that way towards that side of the face. So it's really subtle. I'm not putting a lot down, but I'm just getting some of that colour off the top of the nose. It's very subtle. I don't know if you can really see that, but it's starting to shape the top of that nose. So it's a little bit around there and it's a little bit on this side. It's just blending out the top of that nose a little bit. Now there's not much pencil that's going to go in here, so I want to think about the detail right from the start rather than putting a base layer in. It is still the first layer that's going down. It is still obviously, you know, technically a base layer, but whereas usually I put a base layer down with quite an even solid coverage, this time I want to think about getting some of the texture, some of those pencil lines into the space. I'm also just going to bring the pencil back over the darker bit as well. Take it underneath. Just blend that together a little bit and just staying out of this little bit here. Just leaving that till the end. Just very gently feeding the pencil off the top of the nose. There we go. I'm going to do exactly the same with the bit under the nose, but I'm going to use the warm grey one instead of the cold grey one. So let's just work out away from the nose, little dashes in the direction that the fur's going. So I'm just going to work out around towards the edge of the mouth. I've got quite a strong pencil line in there and I will take that out. Just working out towards the edge. It's a really, really light coverage of pencil. Just bringing it towards the edge. I'm just going to stay on the inside of this pencil line. The reason that I'm leaving that pencil line there is so that you can see what I'm working on. I would have taken that out already because obviously I don't want the pencil line on the edge there. It's going to go nice and light on the edge rather than there being a really strong pencil line. But I'm leaving it there just for the minute so you can see where I'm working. I'm working up to the edge of it with the warm grey one. I will be taking that out. I will be taking these whiskers out and I'll be putting them back in. But I'll leave that there just for the minute. Just working underneath. I just want to get something around the edge of the nose so that I can finish the nose off and I can blend the nose out. And so again, just like I said before, I want to take that base layer further than the space that I'm working in. I'm going to come back in again with the blue pencil that I worked on. I've got some darker bits in here now, so I feel that I can come back and I can top up this blue a little bit, still with really, really light pencil strokes. Still really, really light pressure. I don't want the blue to just overtake and completely wash out everything else that's there. But I can bring some of this blue back in. I'm using circular strokes. I'm using it just to blend out this little line at the top. I've got the line of the pencil across that curve on the top and I want to just very gently blend that out. So I'm using circular strokes, but at the same time just running the pencil over that line, letting the pencil just move up and into the blue bit a little bit. And can you see how I've just very, very gently softened that pencil line? That's what I want to do. I'm going to bring it down here as well, onto the bottom, on this side. Take it around this light bit. And into the other side. Now the last thing I want is for this blue to get really, really strong. All I want is for the blue to eventually be in the areas that are quite shiny, in the areas that are a little bit more wet. They look quite shiny and that, you know, the highlights, they're not really, really light. They're not really white. they've got this blue and this grey coming through. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to bring a little bit of blue around the background here as well, and just take it up and into this base layer that we've just put just above the nose. Bring a little bit of it into this fur on the top. Now all I'm really trying to do is just tint the grey a little bit more towards blue. I've already used a coal grey on the top of here, but I just want to tint it a little bit more and push it towards the blue. I don't want it to be blue, I just want the grey to be tinted a little bit. So I'm not using too much. What I'm putting down is a really light glaze. You can still see all the colours come through underneath, and you can still see the grain of the paper there underneath. And that's quite important. It means that I've still got lots of layers left on the paper. Because I can see the grain, it means I can still get more pigment down on the paper. I'm never looking to fill that grain in right from the start, right from the outset. Okay, there we go. I'm going to bring in a little bit of the fur off the side of the nose underneath and at the top here actually. And I'm going to use the Warm Grey 5 to do that. So I'm going to really gently work out from the edge of the nose with this Warm Grey 5. If you don't have a Warm Grey 5, that's fine. Just go with the colour that's closest to this sort of mid-tone grey colour. It's not a really, really dark grey colour, but it's not really light. And I'm just going to work out away from the nose, working out towards the edge of the face. I'm going to take a little bit of it off at the top up here as well. And I'm just tapping that pencil in. That's all I'm doing, just tapping that pencil in to create that shape or the shapes that I want. Let's carry on. Let's work around here as well, right off the top of the nose. I'm using the warm grey, even though I've put the blue down and the coal grey. I'm using the warm grey because there are patches of this warmer grey that are coming through. A bit more of a brown grey coming through. So that's what I'm doing. I've got to take my time doing it. If I try and rush it too quickly, I'm going to lose the softness that I've already started to put in. So I want to do it quite softly, quite gently. I'm just going to tap a little bit of this grey into this patch here as well. We've got patches and we've also got a little bit right along the bottom there. So I'll get that in. And it's just a case of just looking at the reference photograph, finding those shapes, and then getting them down on the paper. This is a little bit darker around here. I'm going to come in with the grey, but I will come in with a darker colour to top this up. But rather than me switching pencils and working straight in with this darker colour now, I can plot it in with the colour pencil that I'm working on. And that just for a start means I don't have to keep picking pencils up and down. It also means that I'm plotting it in with, I mean, this is a slightly lighter colour. So it's a colour that if I need to adjust it, I can adjust it. I just plot things in as I see them. As long as the pencil that I'm plotting things in with is sort of right, in the right ballpark, I will use it. Obviously, I won't go plotting things in with a completely wrong colour, black where, you know, I want a pale grey, for instance. But I can plot things in with a colour that's not quite right because I can adjust it. I'm just working on this fur on the outside here. Now when we get to the bottom of this nose here, the fur is very gently curving over the muzzle. So I'm very gently going to curve my pencil strokes. It's very subtle. There's not really that much of a difference, but I'm not curving them out that way. I'm curving them this way because I want the fur to start to fall over the muzzle down onto the lips. And I always find it easier to just find those bigger shapes first. So here, the darker shape here, it just makes more sense for me to get this shape in. Find where I am with that shape, because that then will become a landmark for me to work on this bit. So I find it's much easier to find those bigger, perhaps darker shapes first. You know, they're usually the darker shapes that I find first. I've got a sharp pencil for this because I want to get some nice fine bits of detail in. So my pencil is quite sharp, but it has got a used end. It's got that tiny little flat end on the end of it. And that's quite important because it means I can just get a softer pencil mark down rather than getting a really, really strong pencil mark. Let's have a look. I was working around here as well, wasn't I? So let's bring some of this slightly darker grey fur in around here and then work down onto the lip again. And sometimes these pencil strokes are so small, it's just a tap. That's all I'm doing, just tapping it in. And when I get right on the bottom down here, at the minute I've got quite a solid line there because I drew that in so that we could see where we're working, but I don't want a solid line there, so I'm just going to work over the line really gently and work with very, very small backwards and forward strokes that are flicking off at the end of the pencil, at the end of the pencil stroke. And I'm just breaking up that line so that it's not a really, really strong line. And then this is going to go much darker in here anyway, so I'll be able to make this side of the line darker, but it's giving me a nice wispy bit of fur on the top. Just to suggest that there are little hairs that are coming over this lip. It's really subtle, but things like this, when you're trying to get realism into your work, can make quite a difference. So there we go, I've just dotted in some pencil on the bottom. It's not finished yet, I've still got a lot of work to do to it, but we're starting to get a slightly darker bit right on the bottom, and that's going to help me now blend this nose out and sort of finish this nose. I've just got some of the fur in around it and I find that quite useful. So I'll leave that like that. I've definitely got to come back and I've got to work on that, but I will leave that like that for the minute and then just come back onto the nose, and then we'll come down and we'll finish this bit underneath. I'm going to come back in with the black and I'm going to darken this down again. Back to the little circular strokes. Just working over the darker bit. I've obviously made some of the lighter bits lighter now, so I need to come back in and bring some of the dark back in. Now before I do that, actually, I'm just going to switch to the dark indigo, and I'm going to bring a little bit of the dark indigo in around this side, around the side of this nose. Bring it down and into this blue bit right on the side. Little scribbles. Bringing those pencil strokes around. I'm keeping the pencil on the paper. I'm also going to bring a little bit of the indigo, the dark indigo, into this side as well. And I want to just move my little highlight over. The highlight doesn't actually come past this nostril, and I've left quite a big space, so I'm going to just close this up a little bit, make this a little bit smaller. So if I use the dark indigo on this side, just around the highlight, and I'm just pushing it back over. I've just made it a little bit smaller. I'd left quite a big space. So let's very gently push that back with the dark indigo. And then back to this black. Small circular strokes again. Still got this curve on the top, but it's quite soft and subtle. I'm going to work over the top of this little patch that I've got here. Also down into almost like a triangular bit right on the edge. So I'm still looking for the shapes on this nose. There's not much in here that makes it look like a nose, so it's the shapes that are going to create this nose. Let's bring it around the side of the nostril. Pick up this dark right on the top of the nose there, make it darker. It's already getting darker. I've got a little bit of texture coming through. It's going to blend out the top of the nose there. Some little scribbles to break into the edge of that curve, the top, over the top there. And also, same on this side as well. Just bring some pencil strokes down. I've left a lighter bit there. That won't be that light, but I'm going to go back in with a lighter colour. I don't want that to be really dark. There's just a slightly lighter colour between this curve and it blending out into the fur. I just want to look for the darker bits, looking for those slightly darker bits. This obviously has got to go much darker inside the nose here, so let's darken that bit down. I've got to remember to keep the dark bits topped up. So as I'm going in and adjusting those mid-tones, I need to probably come back and adjust the darker bits as well. Adjust those darker areas so that I can keep that contrast. And it looks like I'm probably putting a lot of pencil down, but I'm not. There's hardly anything coming off the end of the pencil. I'm just sweeping it around the areas that I need to darken. Mostly with scribbles, just little scribbles, to just bring in these shapes, to just find these shapes and put these shapes in. a slightly darker bit right on the bottom of this highlight. This highlight is obviously far too light at the minute, but I'm just leaving that space. I just want to preserve that space for the minute, and then I can go in and I can adjust that. But it's quite dark right on the bottom of it. And let's go back over the top bit again. Once I've put this in, I'll come back and I will blend it. Let's darken down this side of the nose. Very gently just soften out the edge of that nose, curve it around that nostril. And it's worth taking your time with something that is quite important. The nose is quite important. Even though it's a little bit fuzzy and hazy, it is quite important because, you know, it's the nose and it's the eyes that are going to make this look like the Jack Russell that we want it to look like, make it look realistic. So it is worth taking the time to get it right. And the other thing that, you know, is worth taking the time for is because the more that you look around this nose, this reference photograph, as we're drawing this nose, the more you're going to see, the more shapes that we're going to see, and they're going to be useful shapes to get in to make that nose look realistic. So it isn't, I don't think there's any point trying to rush something that is, I mean, I wouldn't want to rush any of the drawing. I wouldn't want you to think that I'm suggesting that you rush any of the drawing, but particularly not the features that are going to make the Jack Russell, you know, look like the Jack Russell. So I said I was going to come in and blend a little bit, and I am. I'm going to bring in the ultramarine. Now this is the ultramarine. We've used the light ultramarine. This is the ultramarine, and I'm going to bring a little bit of it in on the bottom. If you don't have the ultramarine, any blue that you've got, that will be fine. Not a really bright blue, something that's a little bit more muted, something that's a little bit warmer rather than a really sort of bright icy blue. If you've got something that's a little bit warmer, if you don't have that, just use your light ultramarine that you've got. And I'm going to bring a little bit of this blue right over the top of the nose, up into this fur on the top, around this nostril and down this side. Now again, I'm not trying to make it blue, I just want to tint the grey that's there. I'm going to bring that all the way down to the bottom, but it's a really, really light glaze. And then I'm going to come back with the Coal Grey 3 again. So the blue, you can see the blue is only there to tint the grey. It's not to make things really, really blue. Close up this gap. I said I was going to leave this gap, didn't I? And it was so that I could get a slightly lighter grey in. So I'm going to bring the Coal Grey 3 in there. Blending the side of this triangle down into the nostril. I'm going to blend over the top over here. And make sure that the top of this brown bit is lovely and soft. And I said it before, but I'll say it again because I've put the pencils down, the colour pencil, really, really softly onto this nose. It's actually really quite easy for me now to just blend and just push that pigment around with a light touch of the pencil. I don't have to press on hard. Just want to close up that highlight a little bit. And I'm going to work down under the nose. I've got quite a strong pencil line under that nose that I think I probably just put in there for the camera, and I want to actually take that out a little bit now. So I'm going to go in with the warm grey down to the bottom of the nose, but I want that bottom of that nose to blend in with the fur underneath a little bit. I've got the coal grey 6, and I'm going to work on the fur around the outside of the nose. I'm just topping that little bit up for a start there, that dark bit, and then I'm going to add a few little wispy bits right around the side of the nose. And bring it down underneath, down here. So let me just reshape this nose just a little bit. I need it to come down here a bit, but I don't want the pencil stroke to go all the way down the bottom like it did last time. So I'm just getting that curve in on the pencil stroke. I'm going to take my my Tombow eraser, and I'm going to just reshape that because I've just not quite got that right. I want to just use the Tombow and just bring that in a little bit. Go back to that base layer, get the base layer back in. And then this just needs to come across a little bit more like that. There we go. It wasn't much, it was really subtle, but it was going to make a bit of a difference. You could see the difference there. And then I'm just looking for the shapes right on the bottom of the nose down here. So we've got, sometimes it's just a little mark. Sometimes that's all we can put in, just a little mark. And as I'm blending out away from the nose, I want to make sure that I'm following the right direction. So here, obviously, we're coming down this side we're going down there, you know, we're sort of working out away from the nose. That's quite important. It's quite important that we take a good look and observe that direction of that fur. And I really want to avoid that temptation of just pressing on hard and getting all of that pigment down really, really quickly. It's really worth just doing it nice and slowly, keeping that softness. Let's just have a look around this side. I'm going to use my kneadable eraser, and I'm just going to take out couple of graphite lines there right on the bottom of the lip, and I'm going to work in with the warm grey one as a base layer. Get that across there. That's the darker bit of the lip there, but we've also got then this part of the lip, haven't we? So I'm going to bring the base layer out a little bit further, and then I can get this bottom lip in as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this really dark bit in. So let's just fill this dark bit of the lip in. Using the coal grey 6 to get that in. And I'm going to push that pigment up into that top lip to just create those wispy bits on that top lip. So I'm just pushing the pencil up from the dark side up into the light side and letting that pencil go off the end so that it raises off the paper, and I get that lovely flick at the end of the pencil stroke. And I'm just going to work in where I need this to be a little bit darker with some scribbles under here to just darken down that little bit. There's areas that just need to go a little bit darker. Just on the outside of this nose and in the fur around here, I can see a little bit of pink coming through. Now you could just use your cinnamon for this. I'm going to use burnt sienna 50% from the luminance. Another good alternative for this is the Caput Mortuum from, not the Caput Mortuum Violet, the Caput Mortuum from the Polychromos. You could either use the Caput Mortuum. If you don't have that, you could use your cinnamon, just to put a little bit of this pink coming through this fur. So I'm just going to work around the outside, dotting it in really lightly. And sometimes just a little scribble, a little circular stroke is all that's needed. I want to blend the fur around the nose a little bit. I'm going to take the edge of the nose off now. Now, if you're not happy, if you're not comfortable doing that, then you don't feel you've got to do it. If you want to keep that edge on so that you know where you're working to, keep it on. I've taken it off. I can just about see the line. So I'm quite happy that I know where to go to. But if you would rather keep it on, then keep that pencil line in place. And I'm just going to bring the warm grey one right the way to the edge, just working out with little backwards and forwards strokes. I don't feel the need to take the pencil off the paper to do this, because I'm just blending what's there. If I get to a particularly wispy bit, I will take the pencil off the paper, but otherwise I don't need to do that. I'm just blending what's there, very gently blending over all of this darker bit that we've put down, just taking it out away from the nose. All the way over this top lip. I'm just going to come back in with the warm grey for 5, sorry, warm grey 5, and just dot in some of this pattern along here, and then I can blend that as well. So I want to just dot that in really, really gently. And work that pencil along that line, there we go. And then just come back to the warm grey one and blend it a little bit. As I'm blending this bit on the side of the face, I don't need to get a really solid colour. I can let some of the raw paper show through, just to suggest that there is some fur texture there. There we go. I shall come back to this warm grey 5 again, and I'm going to curve around the bottom of the lip. So the bottom of the lip obviously curves around. I want to make sure my pencil strokes follow the bottom of the lip, certainly on this side, and then of course on this side they curve around this way. Don't need to put much in there at all, just a little bit. I've still got to darken down inside this lip here, and I've got quite a flat bottom to the top part of the lip there, so I'm just going to bring that down a little bit more, shape it round. And then I'm going to blend the bottom bit here. I'm leaving the bottom of the jaw in again. I'm leaving that graphite line in just so that we can see where we are on the camera. So I'm building the nose up quite nicely. The one thing that I want to do is to blend the nose out a little bit. At the minute it looks quite grainy, and I'm going to use the white pencil to bring this nose together a little bit more and to make it look a little bit more glassy and shiny and quite smooth and quite wet, rather than it looking quite grainy. So this is the white Polychromos, and I'm going to work over the nose. I'm going to bring the edges of the nose into this highlight just a little bit. I just want to soften out that highlight. So I'm not looking to put white everywhere. What I'm doing is looking to soften out and to just pick up what's already there. Just lift and lighten what's already there. Now, as I've softened that, I've gone and adjusted the shape of the bottom of the nose, so I will bring that back around afterwards. But I'm going to really, really gently. I don't want to press on hard. I'm going to just work around the nose. Sometimes it's useful to work with circular strokes. So, for instance, right on the top of this curve here, sometimes it's useful to work in directional strokes. I'm even just going to work out on the edge of these darker bits. Soften those out. Really useful for blending. The white Polychromos is a really useful pencil. It's not too heavy, so it's going to blend for me without putting lots and lots of pencil down. I'm going to use it around here to just make sure that I've got a nice lighter bit right on top of this nose. I want to make sure that I don't press on hard though. I'm not putting any pressure down, or very, very little pressure down. Just blend the top of that nose, there we go. So it's really quite easy for me to just blend blend that line out. It's really quite easy to take that line back a little bit and just blend it. And that's because it's because of the paper that I'm using for a start. I wouldn't want you to think that it's all about the pressure, because papers will react differently with the pencils. But the particular paper that I'm using, but also the fact that I've put down all of those layers really, really lightly. I can just blend them, blend the edges, push that pigment around. And that's all blending is really. It's just pushing the pigment from, you know, one place to another. It could be that it's pushing one colour into another. It could be that it's just pushing the edge of a shape out into the raw paper. That's all blending is. And that's a lot easier. In my experience anyway, that's a lot easier if I've pressed on really, really lightly. Just going to lift that little bit around the side, around there. Now blending this way with the white, it obviously helps to bring the colours together. It helps to create this lovely shiny glassiness on the nose, this wet nose. But it might also mean that I've lightened bits up and I need to go back and darken bits. That's probably very likely that I will need to go back and darken areas, but it doesn't matter, that's fine. It's quite easy then to go and put dark colours back over the light colours and just darken bits down. That's not a problem, but you're then working with a lovely blended space. I'm going to use the white all the way down on the bottom down here. Blend into this bit right on the edge. And then around this side of the nostril. I want the edge of these nostrils to be really, well, not really light. I want them to be lighter, but I don't want there to be a harsh line. So I'm just running the pencil around the edge to just blend it into the dark bit a little bit. And I'm just going to pick up on a few of these little light hairs that were coming over the onto the bottom lip as well. Okay, I'm going to come back in with the black and I'm just going to darken this nose down. We're getting there with the nose now, but before I do that, I'm going to bring a little bit of the dark sepia into here just to give the black a little bit more life, just to make that black a little bit more interesting than just a flat black on there. We have got other colours in there. Sometimes I find that just adding black over black over black over black, it doesn't always necessarily make things as intense or as dark as you want. But when you put another colour in there, so for instance, I'm putting the dark sepia in at the minute, it just brings that black to life and makes it pop on the page a little bit. want to make sure that all the shapes in here have got a nice soft edge. And then back in with a little bit of the black on the top. And I think, just to tip that back towards black rather than brown, but we've got that dark sepia colour underneath there now. And I think, for the minute, I think I'm going to leave the nose like that. And I'm going to move on and we'll see. I will obviously have to adjust it as I finish off around the face. But for the minute, I'm quite happy with that. I can just leave that like that and come back and adjust it as I need to. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave the nose there and we'll start to work on this fur between the nose and the eyes. And that's it for this part of the tutorial. Thanks so much for drawing along with me. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part of our Jack Russell project. I'll be back soon with the next video, but if you're itching to start another drawing in the meantime, head over to my website or check out my Patreon page. You'll find lots more tutorials and exclusive projects waiting for you there. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.